Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to the Netherlands once again, and it's been absolutely ages since I've reviewed a Dutch craft beer for you, but the standard of beer in the Netherlands in my experience a few years ago was really pretty good, and it's somewhere that I definitely need to get back to quite soon and try some of the newer breweries that have popped up. For this review though, we're going to return to a brewery who pretty much everyone would say if they were asked to name a Dutch craft brewery. So for this review we're going to go back to Bodegraven and we're trying another beer from Brouwerij de Molen. This one is the Fair and Feet, and it is a tonka bean quadruple-ish they're calling it, coming in at 9.1% ABV. The Quadrupel is one of my favourite sort of Belgian styles of beer. I've always loved that style, and you know, tonka beans are a really interesting ingredient that people have started using in beers recently. I think my first encounter with this was with Brouwerij from Gothenburg here, and I think they actually did a collaboration with De Molen around that time. It could well have been a De Molen Dugas collaboration actually, but these are seeds from a tree in South America and they smell like vanilla, and quite often what they do is they cure these beans in like rum or something like that, and they use them for flavouring foods or, you know, flavouring tobacco and stuff like this as well. So this one I think should be a really quite interesting beer. Since this is a Dutch beer review as well, I want to give a huge shout out to the three Dutch beer tubers, Thomas Opent, Beer Geek Holland and Dutch Beer Geek. You know, these guys are doing a great job down there of keeping you guys up to date on the Dutch beer scene. Most of the reviews I think still are in Dutch, but they do a good number of them in English now, so definitely make sure you check out their channels. Thomas has actually been inviting me to go down to the Netherlands and join them for one of the beer festivals, and that's something that I definitely want to take him up on, and I do hope that they'll consider coming up here to either Bruskival or the Mikkeller beer celebration in Copenhagen as well. It'd be awesome to have them up here and do some beer reviews with them as well. But a big shout out to those guys. It's cool to see a country that I've always known have quite a good beer scene that have actually got some beer tubers now, so keep it going guys, it's great. So I thought this was a nice little review to do to kind of give a shout out to them as well actually, and tomorrow you'll be seeing review number 1800 from me. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Brouwerij de Molen. I don't get the chance to review Dutch beers all that often, but I would love to make it more regular on the channel. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Dutch beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Brouwerij de Molen then. So as I've told you before, Brouwerij de Molen is a craft brewery, distillery and restaurant that can be found in Bodegraven in the Netherlands. So de Molen translates into English literally as the mill, and the brewery is located in an old historic windmill which was called de Arktwief, which was built back in 1657. De Molen though was founded back in 2004 by Menno Olivier, who started out as a home brewer before turning professional and then of course founding his own company. So the small batches of beer are still brewed in the old windmill in 500 litre batches, but since 2012 the main brewery has been in another building about 200 metres down the street, and there they produce beer in 2,500 litre batches, and they're gradually working their way up to having a capacity of 25,000 hectolitres per year. Apparently around 60% of the beer they produce is exported, and you know, these guys have produced I think around 500 different types of beers, something in that kind of region. You can check it out on Untappd if you're particularly interested. But this is a brewery that are very prolific, and these guys were one of the ones who really kind of kicked the thing off in the Netherlands. You know, these guys have been around for quite a little while actually. These guys really are the sort of premier craft brewery, if you like, of the Netherlands. But of course there's loads and loads of other little breweries have popped up. Since 2016 they've got a business arrangement with Bavaria Holland, who are also known as Swinkels family brewers, and I think mainly Brouwerij de Molen seem to get left to do their own thing, but the distribution side of things and the more commercial side of it is handled by Bavaria or Swinkels family brewers, whatever they're actually calling themselves these days. And Swinkels family brewers of course have, I think they're involved with Boon and also with Rodenbach as well in Belgium, who of course are very good sour beer breweries. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about the brewery for the moment. Like I said, a really well known Dutch craft brewery, this one, and one that you definitely need to check out if you get the chance. Probably the most famous beer that these guys have, I think, is the Rasputin, and there was a dispute with North Coast Brewery from California in America a few years back, and they had to change the name of that beer in America to Disputin because of North Coast's old Rasputin. I've reviewed both of these for you on the channel, actually, at different points in history. But yeah, an interesting brewery, this one. If you get the chance, make sure you get to the Netherlands and check out some of the craft beers, and like I said, do please check out Thomas Open, Dutch Beer Geek and Beer Geek Holland. They've got some really nice videos there, and you can see these guys getting better and better as they go more, as they do more videos basically, so do give them your support. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So like I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is a 9.1% quadrupel with tonka beans added to it. And it's, yeah, it says on the top here, it does give you a list of ingredients. This is one of the cool things actually about Brouwerij de Molen. They've always stuck to this kind of plain ingredient style label, if you like. So there's one or two things about this bottle cap as well that we can see. If I remember rightly, they often had they used to have white bottle caps too, and I think I do have a white one in my little box up there too. But yeah, nicely presented beer, this one. I should say that I picked this beer up at the craft beer bar Skum in Helsingør when I was over in Denmark, because I hadn't seen a quadrupel from these guys before, and as I say, it's a style that I enjoy. I don't get to review too many Dutch beers, so I just kind of thought, why not? It cost me 60 Danish crowns, so you know, it's like £7.50 or you know, like €9 or something like that, I guess. So this is a little bit of an extravagant beer, but you know, I wanted it, so there we are. So yeah, as you can see when we open this one up, nice little bit of smoke on the opening, and we'll get it out and into the glass. Ooh, that looks good actually. I wonder if we're going to get much of a head out of this one. Try and give it a wee bit of a more aggressive pour, and there you are. Yeah, this looks pretty good, I have to say. So, with this beer then, you can see, if I hold it up to the light actually, this is poured a really dark, sort of chestnutty, mahogany colour, this one. I'd say it's more of a chestnutty colour than a mahogany colour. There's a solid half finger of a frothy, I would say medium, kind of almost latte coloured head on this one actually, a medium beige head on this. It looks really nice. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there, but you know, overall it looks pretty nice and kind of basically around what you would expect for a quadruple beer in terms of its appearance. Some of them can be a little bit kind of more red and slightly purpley than this from what I remember, but this one definitely has that lovely nice dark mahogany colour. If you shine a bit of light through it, it does have a little bit of an almost ruby tint to it. It's not actually too far off the colour of the bottle, to be honest with you. But yeah, it looks very, very nice. Nothing overly surprising about the appearance of this beer. So let's have a look at the aroma and just see how we get on. Tell you something, the aroma of this is lovely, but then I was always a sucker for the quadruple aromas. Absolutely love them. Yeah, so straight away with this beer, you're going to get a hell of a lot of brown sugar out of it. You can smell the more kind of syrupy, treacly molasses notes, but it's also quite toasted. It definitely has a bit of that lighter, more toasty caramel to it, and the deeper you take it in, the sweeter it becomes. It really is very, very nice. There is a little bit of a bready quality to this one, but that's quite minimal, I would say. It's more like a kind of well-fired bread crust that comes out of this beer, but the aroma overall with this one is quite toasty and quite sweet in my mind. You can definitely pick up some nice woody qualities to this beer as well. It's almost a bit oaky, and you can definitely pick out the vanilla, which I'm guessing will be the tonka beans. Like I said, the tonka bean is a seed from a tree that you get in South America. Apparently there's a chemical in tonka beans that if you consume too much of it, it can kill you. So in America, the use of tonka beans in food, it's actually illegal in America to sell tonka beans to eat straight up. But they're out there, and I think it's regarded as an adulterated food. I'm surprised there's not a regulation in Europe about that, because I know that the food standards from the EU are a good bit higher than the US, but then Kinder Surprise is banned in America for whatever reason, but guns aren't. It's, you know, some strange things over there. But we'll say, you know, it's just one of these things that amused me when I read it, that we're using tonka beans in beer in Europe, but they're banned in America. But yeah, the vanilla notes coming out of this one are really quite nice. It almost gives the impression of like a kind of barrel aging woody type quality to the beer. You can really, it just, the whole base of the beer, if you like, really just smells as if it's been infused with that. yeah, it's a beautiful beer, this one, really leaning towards the sweet side of the spectrum, but the toasty elements to it and the vanilla side of the beer are are really quite nice, I have to say. I really like how everything's going together in this one. I could sit and smell this beer all day, so we won't spend too much more time on it. On the hoppy side of things, you can pick out a little touch of earthiness in there. There's maybe a little bit of an almost very slightly herbal quality, some grassiness as well, and there's some nice fruity notes, which again is something you'd expect from this beer. Yeah. So on the fruity side of things, some figgy notes. There's definitely a little bit of a raisiny kind of plummy sharpness to this one, some figgy qualities, and then you have got a little bit of an almost, I want to say there's a little bit of a blackcurrant, blackberry-ish note to this one, but really it's the sharper raisins and plums that are coming out of this, and you've got a little bit of a juicy, figgy quality to the beer as well. So like I say, take a bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this beer. Compared to the other quadrupels that I've smelt before, this one's definitely a little bit more malty and sweet. This one doesn't quite have some of the doughy, bready notes that you can come out, but it's got a lovely infused woody vanilla quality, as I was saying, from the tonka beans. So take a bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of this beer before you get stuck in. But let's have a taste of this one now and see how we go on. This one is the Fair and Feet, a 9.1% barley wine, tonka barley wine-ish, if you like, from Brouwerij de Molen in Bodegraven in the Netherlands. A big shout out, as I said once again, to Thomas Opent, Dutch Beer Geek and Beer Geek Holland for making some great beer tubing videos. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanje, Skål, Prost. Oh yeah. That's a really interesting one. This beer, it has a really kind of interesting transition to it. When you take it in, it's very, very sweet, but then it just kind of fades away a little bit and becomes more woody, and it's the tonka beans. It's really quite an unusual beer, this, but I will say straight away, I like this, I really do. Yeah, that's an awesome beer. If you get the chance to try this one, I really highly recommend that you do. I mean, I've had some great beers from Brouwerij de Molen over the years, but this is one that just, you know, you get some beers sometimes that just strike you and you're like, well, damn. And this beer is definitely one of those. I really, really like this one. Yeah. So, let's just try and break down the flavour of this one a bit then. The further that you go into the aftertaste with this beer, you are going to get a little bit of a kind of brown bready quality to this one. You are going to feel that in the centre of your palate. But the middle of your tongue is very smooth actually. The tonka beans really kind of dominate the middle of your palate. You've got that nice woody flavour to it, but at the same time it's giving you that vanilla quality. The vanilla comes out a little bit further forward on the palate in my mind. And it's really interesting just how that goes together. Brown bread, tonka beans, a little bit of vanilla, and it's almost just a little touch kind of, to me it just has this sort of herbal vibe to it. It's like almost the same consistency as like the inside of a brownie, something like that. But then it just has this almost, it's almost a bit like the same consistency as baked beans, Heinz baked beans. It's a really unusual flavour to try and describe because it is very, very unique, but it's almost like a vanilla flavoured bean. I think that's probably a good way to kind of round it up, and it really feels, this beer in the middle of your palate, it has this woody, oaky, vanilla, bean kind of infused flavour in it. It's really, really quite nice actually. But when you have the beer initially on your tongue, that's when you're getting the brown sugars, and like I said, for me this is a beer that really makes quite a dramatic transition through you drinking it, to be honest. So yeah, at the moment you're seeing me take this in. I've still got the brown sugars. The brown sugars, incidentally, there is a bit of a treacly molasses type quality to it, but it does remain quite sweet, and it definitely has that bit of a more syrupy brown sugary quality, but it's still quite sweet, and it is also a little bit toasted, like I was saying too. And it's almost like you've got the bean flavours in the middle of your palate, and then the brown sugars almost form like a ring or a horseshoe just around the outside of that. It's really, really nice actually. Like the way the brown sugars and the beanie flavours in this beer interact is absolutely beautiful, and it's very unique in fact. So this is a beer that you really just need to try for yourself and see how you get on with it. But to me, that's a lovely beer, so huge thumbs up to Brouwerij de Molen for this one. And it's quite cool to see a brewery that is, you know, so established. They could just produce the beers that they've become famous for, and kind of live off that if you like, but they're still doing really unusual things like this. I don't know when this beer would have first been produced actually. I forgot to check Untappd and see when it was added, and Rate Beer would have been the other one that I could have done that with as well. But I think this beer they might have done this like once or twice, but I think it's you know, this is a fairly new beer. It said it was bottled on, oh, it's actually a year old. It says it was bottled on the 22nd of June 2018. So this beer, when I'm drinking it, is about a year old. And I would say with this, it says you can age this one for up to 5 years. At a year old, this beer is in pretty good shape, I'll say. And I'm guessing with it being a year old, probably the brown sugars are just coming out that little bit more, and of course the hoppy side of the beer will have dropped a little bit, so maybe you would have got a little bit more grassy and earthy quality out of this one if you were drinking it a bit fresh. But to be honest, with a beer like this, you do want to let it sit for about 6 months or a year just to get the full kind of gist of what's going on with it. But yeah, as I say, the middle of your palate is where everything is going on with this beer. The further you go into the aftertaste as well, you might start to notice a little bit of a kind of roasty, bread crusty type quality coming out of this beer too. But on the hoppy side of things then, on the edge of the palate, there is a little bit of earthiness there on the side of your tongue. It's almost on the same level as like a German noble hop earthiness. I would be guessing that they've probably used Belgian hops in this. I'm not sure if there are Dutch hops. If there are, they've probably used some of those. But I always found that Belgian hops, they're kind of in the middle of they're always a little bit in the middle of like the German noble hops and Sats and Styrian Goldings and things. They're always a little bit in the middle of that. They've got a slightly more pronounced earthiness, and they've got a little bit of herbal quality compared to the floral thing. So I think they've probably used a Belgian or maybe even a Dutch hop in this one. But yeah, that's a really nice. It really is a very nice beer, this. I keep saying that. But yeah, it gets a little bit more kind of floral and herbal as you come forward. You do get a little touch of a floral quality on the front corners of your palate, and then round the very front curve of the tongue it is a little bit lighter and grassy. You can feel the tonka bean flavour just spreading forward a little bit, but just behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. And like I was saying, the fruity aromas, the fruity flavours rather, are quite similar to the fruity aromas that the beer has. So yeah, for me, there is a little bit of a how do you say, like there is a little bit of sharpness in this one initially, a sort of plummy, raisiny flavour, but it really gives way quite a lot to be more juicy and figgy. There is definitely an element of phenol in this beer, that kind of cough syrupy type thing that you always get, that slightly medicinal quality. You definitely get that, and the further you go into the aftertaste as well, you might think that there's some sort of blackberry, blackcurranty flavours kind of coming out of this one. It's got a very berryish and figgy flavour the further you go into the aftertaste, and of course the tonka bean is just pushing its way out of there as well, and some of the woody and earthy notes are sitting there as well. So I mean, this is definitely one of the more unusual quadrupels that I've come across. I think that it sticks to the style pretty well. I mean, this one isn't as bready and things as you're going to get from some of the beers such as, you know, the Westvleteren 12 or or some of the other ones. The La Trappe quadrupel would be the other one to compare it to, since this is a Dutch beer, Brouwerij de Koningshoven. So, you know, this is a really interesting one. It's a bit of a lighter triple in terms of its malt base, but the tonka bean flavours in this one really, you know, do some very, very interesting things for this beer. This is one of the most unusual beers, I think, that I've reviewed for you on the channel, but I tell you something, it really does work actually. So, big thumbs up to Brouwerij de Molen for this one. In terms of the mouthfeel then, yeah, to me, quite a full-bodied beer. Carbonation, there's not really very much carbonation in this beer at all. You can feel it a little bit, but very, very smooth. The mouthfeel of this beer overall is quite oily. There's a very, very little hoppy bitterness to this one. I think you're lucky if you get like 10 or 15 IBUs out of this beer. 20 at an absolute max. I would guess 15 IBUs of this beer, because there is a little bit of bitterness from the earthy side of the thing, and I think the tonka beans might give you a little bit of IBU as well, because they do get a little touch drier. I'd be curious, I need to check that actually after the video, but I think about 15 IBUs in this one. Malt base is very, very sweet in this one. It does get drier, like I said. The tonka beans, it's an adjunct, so you can't really count that in the malt base, but the malt base in this one is quite sweet and quite toasty as well, but you've got some really lovely juicy fruity qualities in there. A bit sharp in the beginning, but definitely a little bit more juicy as you go into the aftertaste too. But this is a beautiful, beautiful beer, and one that you definitely need to try for yourself. So let's leave it at that for this one. This is the Fair and Feet, a tonka bean tonka bean quadrupel, sorry, from Brouwerij de Molen in Bodegraven in the Netherlands. A beautiful beer, and I'm very happy that I got to review this one again. And I'd like to dedicate this review, like I said, to the guys doing beer videos down in the Netherlands, Beer Geek Holland, Thomas Open and Dutch Beer Geek. They're doing a great job down there, and I need to keep a bit more of an eye on some of the things and get some more brewery recommendations, but hopefully at some point we can do like a Meet the Brewer or a collaboration review or something like that. I will definitely go to the Netherlands at some point and catch up with those guys. But yeah, make sure you follow them and keep an eye on what's going on in the Dutch beer scene, because it is a very, very good quality beer scene in my opinion as well. I encountered it 5 years ago and it's evolved a hell of a lot since then. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Brouwerij de Molen. Do give me some other Dutch brewery recommendations and things like that in the description below, and I'll be sure to talk to the Dutch beer tubers about that as well. Until the next time, stand you just now, check out my social media, and I'll catch you guys very soon. The Fair and Feet Tonka Quadrupel from Brouwerij de Molen in Bodegraven in the Netherlands. Slanje, Skull, Proust. Enjoy review number 1800 tomorrow. Cheers.